The comments, views, and opinions expressed in the podcast are those of the speakers and do not necessarily represent the views of Point72 Academy. All information provided herein is for informational purposes only, is not investment advice, and should not be deemed as a recommendation to buy or sell securities. All investments involve risk, including the loss of principal. This podcast does not constitute an offer to sell or the solicitation of an offer to purchase any security or investment product. Any such offer or solicitation may only be made by means of delivery of an approved confidential offering memorandum. This podcast may not be copied, and it may not be distributed or furnished to or used by anyone other than the intended recipient without the express written consent of Point72.
The Academy is our program to take investment talent without any background or experience and turn them into long-short investors at our firm. But not every analyst that comes through our door goes to Point72 Academy. If you're already in our industry and you're looking for a way to move firms or to break into the buy side, then this is the episode for you. And if you're still considering whether to work at a firm like ours, you can learn a lot from this recruiting team about how they think about recruiting talent and about how analysts make smart moves in their careers. So to talk more about that, I've invited our business development team to talk more about how they recruit analysts and portfolio managers at our firm.
I'm Samaya, and I run analyst hiring here at Point72. And what that means is helping portfolio managers build out their team in whatever capacity that may take.
Hi, I'm Justine Tanner. I work as a sourcing specialist here, and essentially what that means is I am out in the field every day building rapport with analysts. The idea is when there is a catalyst that drives them to want to consider us as a firm, we already have a relationship with them and can work to bring them in when that happens.
My name is Chandler Bachledge. I'm the head of business development, and I largely focus on hiring portfolio managers and people into Point72 launch point.
Tell me a little bit about how you got into the roles that you have today.
I actually started off working at Point72 in the facilities department as a receptionist and working and helping out with billing and accounting. A few months into my tenure here, the BD team, or business development team, we call it the BD team, was looking for an assistant, and I moved over, and 10 years later, here I am.
I worked in sales and trading before I joined the firm 3 years ago. Funnily enough, a recruiter reached out to me. I was obviously aware of the firm and thought really highly of the people I knew there, and went through the recruiting process, and here I am 3 years later.
I actually worked directly with Steve for most of my time here, and I was also a portfolio manager focusing on industrials and energy. After that, I moved over to business development to help the firm find the next generation of portfolio managers.
Why did you decide to make this transition to business development?
This firm is really focused on how we continue to develop, and the portfolio managers here and people in Point72 Launch Point are the future, right? And I spent most of my life at this firm, and I thought that it'd be a good opportunity for me to help kind of grow.
So not everybody who's listening to this podcast is on the cusp of obtaining an analyst seat. So for those who are still learning, what does the day of an analyst look like?
Analysts here typically have a defined coverage universe, and the idea is really to be an expert in that universe. It's a constant feedback loop of them working directly with their PM to give them ideas on the stocks they cover and really be an expert in those names. The day-to-day is certainly filled with a lot of technical work as well as deep analytical research.
And so when we bring outside talent into an analyst seat, what are we looking for and what's the process look like?
Top line answer is it depends on what that portfolio manager is looking for. However, there are a number of things that are table stakes that we do look for across analysts joining. And so when we think about those, one of them is a genuine interest and motivation for why they want to join a place like Point72. You don't have to have invested your first allowance into the stock market to be interested in becoming an analyst here. We have a number of people that just are so intellectually curious and love learning, and the market is a never-ending funnel of information. And so we want you to have some understanding of what is motivating you to make this move. The second is definitely grit. We want people that not only are looking to work hard, but also to overcome failure. The this job, the best portfolio managers in this job, are wrong sometimes, right? And so you have to be able to overcome that and understand that that's part of the job, but it's what keeps moving and pushing you forward. And the last thing, and I would say in my tenure here, this has been increasingly more important, is self-awareness.
What are the backgrounds that we look for when we're thinking about the hiring process? Is it more opportunistic? Is it more traditional in terms of the investment banking route? What do you think?
We hire across all different backgrounds, and each portfolio manager has an idea of what they want when they come in. We sit down with our portfolio managers to figure out what they need for the role they're hiring for and what we think would be the best suited for them, as well as showing them opportunistic candidates. You can go the traditional routes, investment banking, private equity. We hire from equity research, other platforms, single managers. Really, we're open to anywhere where talent is, and our portfolio managers just want to look at the best talent. And when we bring them in, we run a thorough process that has to do with, you'll meet our team, the business development team, someone sitting here. You'll also then meet investment professionals. You'll do some sort of casework along with meeting other members of the firm. And we want people to be here a long time. And so feel it's important that not only we do the work, but that the candidates do the work on us. And this is a place they also want to be long term.
When you're first starting out, you're looking at a blank page, almost a resume. And so how does somebody translate their resume to something that jumps out to some of the top qualities that you're talking about?
I think it's achievement, right? That's how you can stand out. We're looking for people that are extraordinary, and we're looking for people that want extraordinary for themselves. Those people tend to do it in more ways than just, at their job, right? They do it in all things. It could be academically. It could be, internships. It could be athletically. It could be many, many, many different ways. But we're looking for extraordinary. We want people that are extraordinary to be here because they can spend their entire career here.
So tell me about the ways that analysts maybe don't get the job.
Yeah, so this may seem obvious, but anyone who tries to skirt around the truth or inflate something as an automatic pass for us, we are a firm that very much focuses on integrity, and that is something that we hold to a very high bar here.
You also want to be able to articulate why you want to join long short investing. And if you don't know enough about it, that's completely fine, right? I always say, always happy to educate, but never want to have to convince. And also, you should be asking questions. We get plenty of people who we interview with that don't ask any questions about the firm or the role they'd be interviewing for. We place a high value on intellectual curiosity, and your career is an important decision. You should want to be asking questions.
Another thing that is really important as to how to not get hired is having a very jumpy resume. People that are always looking for the next thing, people that aren't really committed to something, as Samaya said before, it makes it difficult for us to look at them and say, they're really going to come here and try and be extraordinary, right? And try and be here for the next 10 years.
Sometimes people make mistakes, though. How would you kind of address that?
I completely accept that. And we're always looking at why things happened. There are no absolutes, right? But we can say if someone has historically moved every 2 years or every 18 months, that tends to be a flag.
I always think about the fact that we want people to be great at this, not progress as fast as possible.
Sometimes you need to be great at what you're doing before you decide to look out at the next thing, right? This is a mentor-mentee business. It's an apprenticeship business. Your job is to learn from the people that you work for and say, well, I'm not going to make that mistake. And if you can do that, that's fantastic. It's one thing that you don't have to deal with, but you have to be consistent. You have to be working for the same person. You have to have longevity in seat to have enough time to do that, enough time to really capture that.
Well, sometimes the portfolio manager leaves the firm. So how do we handle that at Point72?
When we hire people here, we put a lot of time in and we invest a lot, and you're hired by the firm, not just by your portfolio manager. There's a multitude of avenues your career can take here. And if your portfolio manager leaves, which is just an unfortunate nature of this business, we have plenty of opportunity to keep you here. And so when we have talent, we do everything possible to keep it.
Let's talk a little bit about maybe the why we're able to do that. So, I know all of you spend a lot of time getting to know our investment talent. Why is that? Why is that important? And what kinds of things do you think help lead to the success we've had with our repot process?
I think it's pretty simple. We do a lot of work on people because we want them to be here for a long time. We've put a lot of value on integrity, we put a lot of value on longevity, we put a lot of value on talent. Things are going to go wrong in your career. You're going to have a bad run in stocks. You're going to have whatever. Something personal could happen. We need to know these people well enough that we can stand there with them. And if we stand there with them, it tends to work out very well for us. It's why people are here longer.
There's a lot of growth in the multi-manager space. Do you think we're differentiated? And, if so, how do you think we set ourselves apart?
Yeah, I think that we are very differentiated. I think the average portfolio manager here stays here longer than our competitors. And I think that makes us different.
Sounds like that gives analysts and portfolio managers the opportunity to focus on, picking stocks.
We pride ourselves on being real investors here. That's one of our biggest differences, is that stylistically, we're not looking for one thing. We're not looking for everybody to come in and do things the Point72 way. What makes them great?
What do you think prospective analysts are looking for in a firm?
Yeah, I think more and more today, and there are certainly misperceptions about the multi-manager world, is really about being somewhere they can have longevity. That is probably the number one question I get, no matter the level or the tenure of the analyst, is, can I be here for a long time? Can I have a career here? And we've touched on this, but it's something we are incredibly focused on. And so we really want to make sure that that's something we get across in the process.
A lot of analysts want to end their career as portfolio managers. How do they get there?
A large amount of our portfolio managers be grown internally. And it's really created a mentorship culture and where portfolio managers want to pay that forward. And we have a Point72 University, which they have access to research, different panels that the firm has put on, speakers they can listen to. And then we also have a coaching staff that really works with analysts to get better over time, with reps, with anything from how they pitch ideas to how they communicate with portfolio managers. And we also track our analyst career milestones. And we're honest and transparent with our analysts. If we think that you're at a certain milestone or not, we're going to tell you that, and we're going to teach you how to get better and how to reach that next milestone.
But I think the next important thing here, and it's actually largely due to Jamie, is you've built something that takes an analyst, looks at what they are good at and where they could be better. And the coaches focus on where they could be better. It's, you're very good at this and you could work on this, and let's work on that. We as a firm spend a great deal of time and money focusing on that. And to do it at that level, to do it individualized, is very time intensive. But we think it's worthwhile.
And I think it's also important to say that we have a development tool for somebody at any point in their career. So whether it's coming out of undergrad, whether it's joining from the sell side or, investment banking, equity research, private equity, whether you're a more tenured analyst that has experience on the buy side and wants to fine tune tools, whether you're going through Point72 Launch Point to help you become a portfolio manager, there is not one step in your career where we don't have something to offer you. And we were on the forefront of doing these. And that is something that we really feel strongly about.
Sounds like our development is a lot of buy investors for investors type mentality.
Steve is certainly an investor. This firm is very much, as you said, it's by investors for investors. And we look at things through that lens at all times. That's why we spend so much time understanding the people on the way in the door.
Why does longevity matter?
I think it's pretty simple. If you're constantly moving firms and you're constantly sitting on sit-outs, or you're constantly rebuilding your models, you're spending a lot less time in the market. You're spending a lot less time, with applied learning, right? And that's what this is about. If you're not investing, how do you learn how to be a great investor? Moving around is very damaging. You spend years losing out on time, losing out on experience, losing out on chances to make money, losing out on a chance to develop a career. And if you do that, it will come back to bite you. It's really important to have that time, because if you don't, you're going to have a very hard time really creating a consistent long-term track record. And that is what we're looking for. That's what we want. That's what everybody in this industry wants.
Samaya, Chandler, Justine, thank you so much for being here today.